What's up, everyone? So, I want to talk about accessibility in gaming, why it's important, what is accessibility, all that good stuff. But before I do that, please, if you like the video, like and subscribe. I always forget to say this. I don't generally like saying this type of stuff, but please do it. It helps out a lot. But moving on, accessibility in gaming. What is it? Let's start from the beginning. When you go to buy a game, generally you will buy a price. Maybe you don't. But let's start there. So, if you're a game company making a game, you have to consider, how big of an audience you're trying to reach, right? How much is your game going to cost? Or is it going to cost anything? Is it going to cost a lump sum one upfront box cost? Are you going to charge a sub? Are you going to be free to play and charge microtransaction? Are you going to be a box price game with a sub and charge microtransaction? Are you going to be the worst of the worst? Which somehow are still looked at as the best of the best? I'm talking about you, WoW and Final Fantasy 14. Shape up or ship out. Anyway, before I go on a rant about that type of stuff. So let's talk about how that translate to accessibility. So maybe you're making a game, and say me as a consumer, I have $50. I'm going to buy a game. Well, your game comes out at $70. Well, now we're in a bit of a pickle. I can't buy your game because it costs too much. So, sure, maybe I can wait and I can buy it on sale. Maybe I can go try to make more money and buy it later. Chances are I might not buy it though. And how many people out there are going to run into that, you know, that problem? Like, oh, well, $70 is a bit too much for me. I can't buy it. I'm going to wait for it to be on sale. I'm going to wait till I can find it free. I'm going to wait till I can borrow it, whatever, you know? So that's the first accessibility hurdle, your box cost. Now a sub fee, even more importantly, because if people are not able to pay $70 one time, they may not be able to pay $15 or so a month, because that's going to add up over time. This is another accessibility hurdle. Now, microtransactions are not necessarily a accessibility hurdle, but they are widely looked at as a massive problem, and they aren't necessarily a problem because it really depends on the type of game. Now, again, if it's a game that has a box cost and a subscription fee, yeah, microtransactions are kind of messed up. It's kind of screwed up for a company to need that much of your money. But then again, maybe not everybody is interacting with the microtransactions. So if you have a box cost and microtransactions over time to continue development, or you have a sub fee and microtransactions over time to continue development, maybe that's not that bad, because surely not everybody will interact with the microtransactions, and maybe the box cost or the sub fee will help, you know, you as a company make up for the lost costs. Whatever. I don't blame you. From a business minded standpoint, I don't blame the companies for trying to make as much money as possible. But then you think of a game like Fortnite, which was free to play, one of like the most massively successful, massively grossing games. Genshin Impact, another one, free to play. And these games make massive amounts of money, massively successful, very profitable. And you got to think, like, what did these guys do? How do they do it? How do they handle it? How does it translate? These are free games. These are free games that came out on multiple platforms. How do they do it? Well, they removed the accessibility hurdles. The initial accessibility hurdles out the window. Game is free. Game is on PC. The game is on consoles. The game is on mobile. This is very important. I think this is very important for developers and publishers to think about moving forward. I understand it's probably hard to develop for lots of different, platforms at once, but you should strongly consider it. Hire the people that will be able to do that for you. It'll go a long way. But so yeah, I think moving forward, the future of gaming and accessibility largely relies on multi-platforming. Games should be coming out with scalability, excuse me, for every platform. PC, console, mobile. Even if you're considering making a mobile game, you don't have to scale the graphics up to PC level, but you need to consider making a version across every platform. Accessibility. You also stop with exclusives. Now, this might be problematic for some companies because I think they underestimate themselves and their potential for sales, and that's why they will take exclusivities. They'll take an exclusivity deal from Sony because maybe they get a massive upfront paycheck, and that, well, if our game doesn't sell as well as we hope, we have this going for us. That's cool and all, but stop doing that, please. I think it's more important that the accessibility get to the level where all games are coming out with that scalability. Mobile games are great. When you're on the go, if you're traveling and you can't take a larger device with you and you want to take games with you, I understand. I've been there. I've had portables. I've taken games to work. I've played mobile games. I still play mobile games. But the important thing to understand is that people don't want to sit there and look at their phone all day. They might want to play your game all day. So I'll give people the accessibility to play your games on a PC, on console, whatever they have access to. Because also consider that not everybody might have a PC. Not everybody has an Xbox. Not everybody has a PlayStation. Not everybody has a mobile device. Chances are more people have mobile devices but don't have the other things because they're a little bit more essential. But does that mean you shouldn't make your game on PC or console just because more people have mobile devices? No. Scalability, accessibility. So the next thing I want to talk about with accessibility, because I've already talked about price, I've already talked about device. Which, side note, a thing that is important to consider about device. Maybe you're making a game and you're making it on PlayStation exclusively, but not everybody has a PlayStation. So now a lot of people that might have considered buying your game now have to buy a $600-700 device to play that game. No. You know what I can do instead? I can buy 10 Xbox games, I can buy 10 PC games, I can whatever device I have access to, I can buy 10 games for that instead of buying a new device and your game. At that point, screw your game. If you're making your game exclusive to one device, I don't care about you. Maybe I hit the lottery and I have that one device, sure, and I'll consider playing it. But I'm not everybody. And as a business, that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Aren't you trying to reach everybody? Don't you want everybody to buy your game, to have access to your product, to experience your product? To be able to say, man, I really enjoyed playing this. You should try this. This was a lot of fun. It's on all these different devices. So it doesn't matter what you have. Go try it. It's free. Oh, yeah, you could buy stuff in the game, but you don't have to. Chances are when people are having fun and having a good time, they're going to want to support your game. That's why Fortnite is massively successful. They took the effort to buy, or to buy into a lot of IP collaborations, and that's look how that's working out for them. Genshin Impact. They don't have to buy collabs. People just want that stuff. Honkai, Star Rail, same deal. A lot of gachas are massively successful, and they're massively predatory, disgustingly so. But yeah, I'm getting off the rails here. A next thing I want to talk about with accessibility, which I think is important, is within the games themselves, and that is, scalability of graphics obviously is important, and that kind of goes along with the device topic. But I want to talk about is features, controls. Games need to have access to all of the control schemes they could possibly have. Click to move, if it's not it doesn't have like a massive impact against your game. Of course, there are limitations to this, but something like an ARPG, click to move. WASD. This is an argument I constantly see in Asmongold's chat with D4. Why doesn't it have WASD? There's a bunch of gatekeeping Andes that have no good reason for why it shouldn't be there. They don't understand design philosophy, the philosophy of games, and accessibility in games. People that are familiar with certain control schemes want to jump into a game and know what they're doing. You should have click to move. You should have WASD. You should have controller support. More importantly, it should be seamless when you go between, the two. I'm looking at you, PoE. I made a short video about this, kind of like a satire video, world record playthrough of PoE. Explaining my gripe with the controller to keyboard and mouse swapping inadequacies, and a guy had the nerve to say, I'm asking too much to be able to use my controller or mouse and keyboard. Just pick one, he says. Well, why is it that every other game in existence that I can play for years, for the last 15, 20 years, I can seamlessly use my mouse when I'm in the menus, or I can use a controller. Especially when I'm playing on PC. Almost every game. It was in the comments on my video, I gave him a big list of games in which you can use the keyboard, mouse, or just pick up your controller and it seamlessly swaps. But for some reason in PoE, you have to go back to the main menu or the character swap screen. And I'm sure it seems that maybe that the controller support is something they added later, and maybe that's something they're going to work on over time. And more importantly, moving into PoE 2, maybe that's something that they will have by then. But that is a massive accessibility oversight. You want people coming into your game, you want them to understand how to play the game. There's a reason why every Call of Duty pretty much has the same controls. Why every first-person shooter pretty much has the same controls. Because they want people that are familiar with the genre to come in and boom, they're playing. Plug and play. You've heard the expression plug and play before. That's what they want. They want you to come in, you plug in the controller, you plug in whatever, your device is, your peripheral, and you're playing without giving it any thought. But if I jump into a game and I'm like, I don't understand this, the buttons are backwards, the controls are weird, that is an accessibility flaw. You have to have every control set up that you possibly can that makes sense for your game. So D4 devs add WASD. PoE devs seamless transition between mouse and keyboard and controller. Okay, please. I want to be able to use the mouse in the menu and still play the game with the controller. It's not too much to ask for, guy out there in the comments. Colorblind mode. I'm not colorblind, but this is something that is important to have in games, right? It's an accessibility feature. This is something that more people might consider accessibility features in games. All the stuff I said before, they might not have actually considered or thought about as accessibility up until this point. When you go into the menu in the game, there's generally accessibility things, turning off motion blur, stuff like that. All of these features are important. You don't want people to have an epileptic seizure. I can't say that word that fast. I'm not even going to try again. But you don't want people having a seizure when you play a game. That's why they have warnings. That's why you have the ability to turn off flashing effects. That's why you have colorblind modes. That's why you have visual audio, which I think is problematic because in Fortnite's case, bad implementation of a great accessibility feature. When you turn on visual audio, it should disable the audio. There's no reason why somebody that can hear should also be able to see. It's basically ESP. You've given people that can hear ESP. Bad implementation of a really good idea, having the visual audio. You should get one or the other, visual audio or audio. In that case, that way there's somebody not getting extra sensory advantages. Because like someone like me, I personally, I don't like having it on the screen. It's a disadvantage to me because it throws me off. But people that are good with it and know how to use it, it's disgusting how good they are. Just an example of an accessibility feature gone wrong. But they had good intentions. Do you understand? Like, accessibility is very important in games. You want as many people out there to be able to experience your game as possible, because that is another customer. And there's a lot of people out there. Chances are there's going to be a lot of like-minded customers that may, that prefer playing with a controller. That, for whatever reason, their hands can't manipulate the keyboard as well. The buttons on the keyboard, so they need to use a controller. Maybe click to move is problematic because they're constantly clicking on the wrong things, so they need WSD. But anyway, I think that's pretty much enough about accessibility in games. It's very important. Hopefully, some people learned something about accessibility in games. Hopefully, more people out there stop trying to make stupid arguments why, oh, the game's fine how it is, and I can play with a keyboard, so you should be able to play with a keyboard. Stop that stuff, all right? Stop being gatekeepers. Think about everyone else out there. Think about your grandmom that has arthritis. You know what I mean? And maybe she wants to play games too. Whatever. But have a good night, everybody. Peace out to the devs out there and the publishers. Whether you're an indie dev or AAA, please, scalability for all platforms, accessibility for all people. Thank you.